Hello right bags, it's Jade. Welcome to my top 10 survival games of 2020. I have played so many this year. Despite there not being some big huge hits like Ark or Conan or DayZ, there have still been plenty of smaller little games that have actually made a huge impact. This year we've seen over 15 different survival games come to console for the first time or appear out of nowhere. So I want to talk you through my top 10. 4 of these will be PC exclusives, but that means there's still 6 of these that you can go and pick up either on Xbox or PlayStation, so go and try them out for sure. I am Jade, I am the home of survival. I've covered every survival game that's come out on console in the last 4 years, so go and check out all my playlists if you want to see any more info about some of these games and all the others, the big hitters. As we go into 2021, I'm sure we're going to see even more, but this is my top 10 survival games, brand new ones of 2020. Disclaimer, some of these games are unfinished or early access, and I'm giving some of them the benefit of the doubt that I can see potential. Also, some of these games may have been out quite a while on PC, but they made their first real go of it on an Xbox or a PlayStation, so I have included them as well. It's my list, I'll do me, yeah? It's always my personal opinion, so don't get salty because I put one game over another. Let's go. Number 10. Hear me out, please don't click away in disgust because I've put Unturned here. This game is years old, it came out in like 2016, but it came to PlayStation and Xbox for the first time only very recently. It is a paid product now, it's not free to play like it is on PC, but you do get a bunch of the skins, you don't have to worry about microtransactions, it's all there in one package and it's pretty still low priced. Why do I like Unturned and why is it number 10? It's pretty much a simplified version of DayZ, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you can look past the stupid graphics, it's actually got a lot more mechanics into it and a lot of deeper systems that you would expect to find in a game like DayZ. It's no secret that creators started life out playing Roblox games and obviously took a lot of inspiration from DayZ in making Unturned. You'll run around a whole plethora of different style maps with different environments, different unique challenges, picking up all sorts of different loot and of course facing off against other players. It is still retaining so many of the features. It is a multiplayer game, it is a PvP game, but the best of all thing is you can host your own server. You don't have to go and pay extra money to another server provider. It isn't just limited to only 4 players or 6 players. You can have your own server where lots of people can come and join you. You can set your server up to be PvE, PvP, make it super hard or super easy. And this is a first for a lot of these survival games to actually have a server that will carry on running. Honestly, this is a game changer where games like DayZ, Ark and Conan all make you pay extra money if you want to play privately with more of your friends. Unturned does it for absolutely free and you don't have to worry about always being online. And yes, it does look ridiculous that you're going around with these cartoony characters, especially in maybe a more harder, mature audience of survival, but don't let that put you off. Underneath it all is a fantastic little game. It's hard getting all the resources you need, getting different loot and of course facing off against other players. Oh yeah, and of course zombies. So that's why I'm putting it in my top 10. Number 9, Windbound. I had high hopes for this game. It looked like it was going to be a survival Breath of the Wild and to some extent it is. But the features of the game really obviously aren't going to compare maybe to that masterpiece. And beneath all the exterior of sailing around, fighting off enemies and solving some very light puzzle elements, you'll find a game that really isn't that much of an open world experience and ends up becoming a bit of a chore to sail to different islands. The mechanics in it are good, it is nice and pleasant sailing around, you've got storms that happen and there are some interesting biomes and creatures to face off against. But in the early stages of the game it does get a little bit repetitive and you quickly realise that the same mechanic is in the game over and over again. Activate 3 stones, navigate through some dangerous waters and maybe take on a little mini boss and then it's rinse and repeat the same thing over and over. It's still a good game and I highly recommend it for sure, but I was a bit disappointed it didn't have as much replayability. Well, replayability that was interesting. It is a roguelike at heart as well, so you are kind of meant to die and you're meant to progress slowly over time, getting better gear, better items and getting used to how it works. But the environments are just not maybe full enough of things to do. Some other things it's got going for it is that even on its most basic difficulty, it's pretty tough. The combat's pretty basic, but the art and the style of it I really like, and the music's great and the environments are pretty cool too. They have been updating the game post-launch as well, They've been adding more and more content to flesh it out a little bit more, and they've got big plans for a little bit of a rework and adding even more enemies and different locations to the game. So I'm confident that this will be a purchase that you can come back to over and over again over the next maybe year, and you'll find more and more content being added every few months or so. It's a shame it's not multiplayer, but this definitely is a game that I think is definitely worthy of being in the top 10. Number 8. Among Trees is an Epic Games exclusive, and unfortunately it looks like it's going to be that way for a while still. No plans yet to come to Xbox or PlayStation. It's very early access, and it looks like the updates for it are going to be a bit slower than maybe some people would like. What Among Trees is a kind of walking simulator game in beautiful lush forests where you will have to survive against the odds with a log cabin. The difference being that you can upgrade this log cabin, add in extensions to it so that you've got a botanical area, you've got a crafting area, you can grow your own plants, you can add more features to the game. All the while exploring lush forests, beautiful rivers, mountains, and avoiding some of the big scary bears. It's pretty basic at the moment in its early access state, and a recent update did just add a brand new pet mechanic to it, but it's still got some way to go. But for sure, a beautiful looking game with lots of atmosphere that I really loved. I'm hoping they'll add controller support to it properly in the future, and I really hope they keep adding even more features like being able to upgrade your hut, or even the ability to actually move your base and actually put in locations that you would prefer. I think this could be a game changer for this game. It's not going to be a thrill a minute kind of ride. It is, like I said, a bit more of a walking simulator style game. It also needs a big dose of story to be added to it soon too. Very much in the same sort of vein as The Long Dark, but maybe not as challenging. In fact, that's one of its best features, is that you can make the game as easy or as hard as you want. You can make it so there's absolutely no survival mechanics whatsoever and no danger, or you can make it a bit harder and really have to go scraping around for mushrooms before you die of hunger. Looking forward to good things for this in the future. Let's just hope some of the updates start coming out at a bit more rapid rate, and we do hear news about some sort of console release. Number 7. Stranded Deep. The drama and the saga of Stranded Deep appearing on consoles has been running for years. I was one of the first people to let you guys know it was coming back then when Telltale were going to be the publisher. But things went pear-shaped rapidly when Telltale went out of business, leaving Stranded Deep literally only a few weeks away from its release, having to go and find brand new publishers and get extra help getting the game back onto a console. It took nearly a year and a half for that to happen, but eventually Stranded Deep did appear on an Xbox and a PlayStation, and it was kind of worth the wait. I'm not going to lie, I ended up being a bit disappointed with Stranded Deep. A great game, still a fantastic survival experience. I mean, if you really enjoy games where you're just living as a castaway life, you really enjoy this one. It's got some fantastic visuals in it when you're underwater fighting off against some of the sharks, and it's definitely one of the most challenging survival games I've played in a while. But it does get a little bit boring after a while, just going from one island to the next with not really much incentive. And it didn't really draw me in as much as I'd hoped. Maybe it was the hype for so long, maybe my expectations were just a bit too high. I was pretty disappointed it didn't have multiplayer baked into it either, not even split screen co-op. I'm really hoping they'll add something like that in the future. Updates have been coming, they've been relatively slow, but they have been more or less following the PC eventually. And with PC just expanding the game so that you've got even more tiles or world to explore with different islands, I think the future for Stranded Deep could be pretty decent. They just need to find some new loot suppliers to get really back into it and make base building a really worthwhile thing. But overall, a fantastic experience, and of course I rate it higher than some of the other games because it was out and it is a complete state. It does have an ending to it, and as I said, if they can get multiplayer or some sort of co-op with it, I think it would be amazing. That would really make up for them quiet moments or that extra grind that you have to do to get from island to island. Of course, it has got boss fights as well, and so that's another good thing about this game. It's still not technically released into full release on PC, but that looks like it's coming very, very soon, so I don't think we'll see too many more updates beyond maybe summer 2021. But yeah, really do hope they finish it off with some sort of co-op play. Number 6. Scrap Mechanic. Alright, technically this is a game that maybe shouldn't be in the list, as it's not really new and it didn't appear on a console. But I would say that Scrap Mechanic's survival mode felt like a brand new game. Scrap Mechanics come out years ago and the survival mode has been promised for just as much as long. But the developers have been a bit weird in how they've gone about things, spending probably far too long fleshing out their sandbox features before turning attention to survival. The hype and expectation over the survival was phenomenal. but that quickly died out because people started realising that there just still wasn't enough to keep them playing this game for longer periods. Scrap Mechanic's a fantastic game creatively, being able to build contraptions, robots, transport, all sorts of weird and wonderful things, but managing to put that into a survival experience and making it actually compelling or challenging is pretty tough. They've got some good ideas evolving around base defense and having the farm bot robots pretty much come and attack you if you're growing too many crops. But the last time I played it, there was far too many ways to cheese, and it really felt a bit too grindy getting some of the resources needed to actually have some fun. But still, it's still a great game. It looks great. I love the character designs of these little mini dwarves. I love the idea that creativity can play a massive part in survival. They just need to focus on getting more updates out regularly with fresh content so that we're not waiting years for a big drop. And I've got to find some way to keep that challenge going and maybe making it a little bit easier in terms of resource gathering. It will be a long road ahead for this game. I can't see it even coming out of early access in 2021, and that'll end up being like 5 years in early access, but fingers crossed we'll see something maybe come to the game preview program on Xbox in the near future. So right now, in terms of the creativity with that survival, there's not many games out there like it. Number 5, Medieval Dynasty. PC only at the moment, and it might be that way for a while, although the developer and publisher have ported a number of their type games over to console in the past. Medieval Dynasty could be a fantastic little game if they keep going in the right direction. You're pretty much tasked with building up your own little settlement, adding all sorts of different buildings to it, like a carpentry workshop, a blacksmith, and you'll do this by helping out locals from other villages in and around you, all the while surviving, farming, and pretty much building up your resources. You can place freestanding buildings and then upgrade them over time. And there's a few light quest elements in the game too. With lots of crafting, lots of foraging, it definitely keeps you busy, and I love the idea of being able to pretty much just go out anywhere in the world and start building up my settlement. Typically a grindy game like most survival, I would love to see some of the quests fleshed out a little bit more, and probably the biggest request, but it's probably not going to happen, is that this game could really do with some multiplayer aspect. As I said, developers have said they're not going to add that to this game. It is a single player experience only, but it really would be nice to have some ability to play co-op, or maybe even set something up with friends where you could send resources to them in their world, maybe even a trading system. But either way, they've had regular updates since they launched, and in the pipeline they're going to have raiders, which I'm really looking forward to do something else rather than just gathering and building up my settlement. I've actually got something to do once I've got my settlement and defend myself against some AI. The devs have been communicative on Twitter and social media, and so I've got a good future for Medieval Dynasty. It's another survival game that you can pretty much trust in early access, that it will become solid and they will continue to update the game over the next year. And as I said, some of the games they've had in the past, like Farmers Dynasty, have appeared on console, so I don't think it's out the realms that this might see a release in the near future. Number 4, The Survivalists. Take the art style and some of the gameplay from The Escapists, which is a bit of a simulation puzzle game, and then add some survival elements and you've pretty much got The Survivalists. You'll be going around lots of islands trying to survive with your troop of monkeys. You can tame a bunch of these little guys in the game and they'll actually gather and do certain things for you. They can help protect you against some of the other enemies like orcs and dangerous creatures, or you can get them simply farming or building. It's a real mix between simulation and survival, and I really enjoyed Survivalists. I just didn't have enough time to put into it as it was such a busy period. But for sure they've been doing all the right things. Extra updates have been coming thick and fast. They've got test live servers where they're testing the gameplay out to make sure it's all working, and these updates are hitting console in a relative short space of time. It was already, I would say, a pretty fully developed game, and even though it's not even early access, it looks like they're going to carry on adding more and more to the game over the next year. Base defense against some of the creatures, adding more abilities to maybe some of the monkeys and what you can get them to do, I think is definitely what they need to focus on. And if only they can maybe make the control system just a little bit easier to use, I think this game could be fantastic. But easily some of the best fun I've had. It's multiplayer as well, and definitely being able to play it across any platform, whether it's a Switch, an Xbox, a PC or PS4, is fantastic. So yeah, give this one a shot. Number 3, Drake Hollow. This is a great little game. If you really loved Fortnite Save the World experience, pretty much going around gathering resources, fighting off enemies and then building your base, you're going to love this game. It's got more of a roguelike experience I think than gets advertised, and the updates it's received since its launch have really fleshed out what you can do in this game, which was maybe just a little bit too basic in some of the stuff. First off though, it is a story based game with chapters and progression, and you will have a nice little conclusion to the end. So if you're not really into the big grinder survival games, but you want to kind of test the water a little bit, then this might be a good one. As I said, some of the updates since then have fleshed things out a little bit more, where you can make the game easier or harder, more challenging, and it expands it almost with a never ending mode nearly there. It's also multiplayer, which is great news, and again they've been doing things like testing stuff on proper test servers to make sure the impact of updates doesn't break the game for everyone else. A lot of what goes into me saying a game is better than another is how the developers act and how much they update their game and they talk about their games. And for sure, the molasses flood of devs have done a really good job in my opinion. It's still a relatively small little indie game, and it has some limitations with combat, which is a little bit one note and I would say maybe slightly boring. But it's pretty fantastic running around looking after these little drakes, defending your base against these horrible Stranger Thing monsters, and then going out and gathering resources and getting stuff to upgrade and hopefully help build up better defences. It was on Games Pass recently, for sure, absolutely give this one a try. Number 2. Last Oasis. Controversial, I know, it didn't launch in a great way. After quite a lot of hype, I was super excited about this game, and then the typical curse of early access hit. The servers just couldn't cope with the influx of players. Over 35,000 people logged on to give the game a try, and it just melted. The devs hadn't done enough proper large scale testing, and it took a good few weeks to get this stable, and that kind of killed a lot of the hype of good promise around the game. On top of that, they really didn't get a grip enough with the PvP aspects, and the case of pretty much huge zergs of clans and people just steamrolling everyone else. Now it's been a while since then, and they've been hard at work adding new content. In fact, they've not really let up. Again, so I applaud them. Many devs maybe would have gone and cried in the corner after launch they had, but they knuckled down, they fixed the most pressing problem, and then they went starting to address some of the issues that the player base had arisen. What I really like about Last Oasis is the combat and is that feeling of taking charge of a walker. It's not an easy game to get to grips with. I'm hoping that controller support for it and obviously the upcoming Xbox release, which will be happening in 2021, will really flesh out the game a bit more. But it's definitely the most different survival game, specifically PvP, out there. And that's what I really loved about it. I rated it higher than playing something like DayZ or Conan Exiles or Ark, simply because it was just something a bit fresh. Going to war with other clans and other people with your walkers, firing off all sorts of artillery from your walker or trying to get on top and take out drivers, it was pretty fun. Even if I did get a bit toxic and a bit stressed playing it. In the last few months they've been adding more and more content to hopefully try and draw in a little bit more of a PvE crowd. But make no mistake, it's still a PvP game. The recent refresh and update, which put clan limits and added a bunch more features often requested, I think went a long way to making some of the problems melt away. But it's still got work to do. I really hope it does manage to keep carrying on some momentum, as I do think this game does deserve it, specifically because the devs have put so much work into it and have continuously updated and added fresh content to it too. For sure, Last Oasis has got a big future, and definitely when it hits Xbox I think we're going to see it explode a bit more. And number 1, Grounded. Grounded gave my channel the opportunity to have its best month it's ever had and helped secure this as being the best year I've ever had. 3 million views nearly in that month of August when Grounded launched. I didn't have loads of videos that did hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views, but so many of the videos I did were helpful for you guys learning how to survive when you're shrunk down. It was the best month I've had. It gave me 11,000 subscribers, beating all sorts of games like Ark, Conan, DayZ, and so yeah, I absolutely love Grounded. So of course it was always going to be my number 1. Being shrunk down into small tiny size, fighting off ants, spiders while you explore a huge backyard, it's just a nice fun experience, and it's made by a development team that know a little bit about story. Obsidian are well known for making great story content focused games, but are they good at survival? The answer is yes, they can absolutely make some decent survival games. They've got puzzle elements, they've got base building, they've got combat. It's pretty much ticks off all the boxes. Obviously multiplayer too. It's just a shame it's not on the PlayStation. It does still need lots of work obviously, and the way that they're not really expanding their team to keep up with demand. Apparently over 4 million players have played the game by now. I think it's a bit of a shame they're not maybe upscaling. But for sure they've got roadmaps talking about what they're going to be adding, and the future looks bright for this one. I'm really excited to see what they can do with base defense and how they actually tie into making sure your base is going to protect you against either killer bees or wasps, as well of course as the food stealing ants. Not to mention still the story. I think it's going to be a big year for Grounded in 2021. I'm definitely going to be all over it once more. Let's just hope they can either speed up the updates or that the content that they do deliver does last a bit longer. It definitely needs just a little bit more meta. I don't always like comparing certain games to others, but there are benchmarks to be set, and I think this game absolutely needs some sort of mechanic where you can tame or keep creatures. It doesn't have to be a replica of Ark Survival Evolved, but it does give players something to do in between either just gathering resources for base building or doing some of the story and challenge content, which at the moment is only a few hours long. So yeah, I'm really excited about Grounded and what the future holds for this game. I can't wait to keep following it. So there we go, that's my top 10 new survival games of 2020. Let me know what you think about it, agree, disagree, are there some PC little early access games you think are gems? And also stay tuned because I will probably be doing a video talking about my favourite games I played this year as well. As always, I'll keep you guys up to date with all these games I've mentioned, and of course the brand newest ones that are hitting in 2021. So until next time, have a good Christmas and New Year's, and I'll see you ratbags soon.